Hello everyone, this is week 3 and this is kind of update of where the project is. Really quickly, this is the seedling greenhouse at Virginia Tech, and this is basically designed just for starting off seeds. And you can see I've got a couple of rows here of some seedlings start to sprout. This is the second week, and also on the third week you can see some other plants really starting to sprout. So this is a really cool area. Every other hour, this station mist to kind of moisten the plants. So you can see this is the final round of seeds that we're doing. We're only doing about 5, and then May 2nd we'll get some cuttings, and we'll start planting those in this area too.
This is the form and all the electronics that go into it. All the electronics work essentially as a glorified button press, but instead of it being a physical button, it works off of a changing capacitance. And capacitance is just charge on one side and charge on another side, and the comparison between those two charges. That's all the main logic that's going on this board. All I did was connect up one side of the capacitor to the Arduino and the other side to the form. And by touching on these forms, you can get a visual indication that some magic is happening by the LEDs. Now, even if on some of the forms, when you don't see an LED light up, there still is going to be capacitive charge going through and getting fed to the Vive as a 0 or 1 being on or off. How the electronics actually work is when you touch the paint, you create a massive spike in capacitance. That massive spike in capacitance goes through this wire, or this charge goes through this wire, and you use the resistors on here to create a voltage comparison. The logic on the Arduino looks at this voltage comparison and says, hey, if it's past this point, I know to send a value of 0 or 1 further on one of the other parts of the Arduinos. These are all the inputs. The microcontroller, the Arduino, does all the processing based off of this change in signal. And then from that processing, the output is through these wires. These wires are independent of the LEDs. It's just, LEDs are just a glorified indicator. But when you touch these points, the logic goes through and is outputted across the analog pins into the Vive, where that 1 or 0 gets sent over onto the computer or the base station. Arduinos are really easy to work with microcontroller, and they work off of like shields. Right now, this is just an Arduino and there's a shield on top of it. So if I'm gentle, I can take off the shield, and here's the Arduino. The Arduinos, you don't have to mess with this anything. There's tape on here to prevent conduction because I did a bad job placing the pins, but that can always be moved. And the Arduino stays inside of this base because I put screws, I think they're M2 screws, inside the model, so it's easy to stay. The more important part is this aspect right here. This is the little thing that we got from the Vive gun, and the 3D printed ones, we're having difficulty working with them just because of how the Vive thingy, I don't know what the plastic part is called, is difficult to work with. You have to have a compression fit in order for the contacts to line up. So if I screw this out, you can see this is the little bit that you have to try to force in and wiggle in. And here's the individual component. And even when, I'll pull it out a little bit, you try forcing them together, they don't really fit. It just wants to slide back and forth because it's on a really weird spring system. So